Let's go in and bring in NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And Ken, we just learned the name of the suspect. That has been the question on everyone's mind since this news broke this morning. What do we know?
That's right, Morgan and Kate. 4 senior law enforcement officials briefed on this matter say they have preliminarily identified this suspect as Shamsud Din Jabbar, with a birth date of October 26, 1982. Again, Shamsud Din Jabbar. Now, they are still trying to determine information about his movements, his travel, his background, all that sort of thing. We obviously are scouring public records to learn as much as we can about this individual with a rather uncommon name. But that is the name, and clearly they are investigating whether this attack was inspired by ISIS, as we've been reporting. They're investigating whether a pole with a black flag affixed to the back of the truck was in fact an ISIS flag. These are all questions that are up in the air right now, but that is the identity of the suspect as we have learned it. This is reporting with Tom Winter, Julia Ainsley, and myself, guys.
And just a short time ago, we were playing back, Ken, the video of President Biden speaking, and he was asked a number of questions by reporters
a number of times
about the suspect and whether the suspect was from the U.S. or perhaps from somewhere else. Do we have any clarity on that yet?
We do not have clarity on whether this is a U.S. citizen or where he was from. They're investigating whether he was not the owner of the truck. In fact, whether he got the truck from somewhere else. The truck had Texas plates. So all that is up in the air. We're trying to learn that. In fact, I've been standing here waiting to go on the air, so our colleagues may know more than I do at this point. We'll wait to see if they put notes in the system. But that is an open and active question right now. You can expect that President Biden may not have been briefed on this is changing by the minute, and we're getting information from our law enforcement sources. It takes time sometimes to work its way up the chain to the most senior people, but that's what we know at this moment.
You know, I want to go back to the beginning, if we can, Ken, because, you know, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, he said that his department was working with local law enforcement very early on to investigate this as a terrorist attack. What details did they have at the time? What clues did we see in the footage and the UGC, the content that people sent in from eyewitnesses? What clues indicated that this was intentional and not a DUI, as some were wondering from the very beginning?
Well, the fact that he shot police officers and may have shot at the crowd with a rifle was their first clue, guys. And also just the nature of the attack, that horrific interview that you just heard about how he was able to get up to speed of 60 or 70 miles an hour. So they knew right away, and it was clear from the initial briefing this morning that the FBI was taking over this investigation, was taking the lead, and was investigating it as a potential act of terrorism. And then they had to fill in the blanks from there. And, you know, in addition to the facts on the ground, there's also a long history of these kind of vehicle attacks, many of which were inspired by ISIS, both in Europe, and then there was one in 2017 in New York City, inspired by ISIS. That doesn't mean ISIS terrorists were directing this from some bunker in the Middle East. Well, what we've seen time and again is people radicalized inside the United States, mainly online, carrying out attacks inspired by this ideology. They may never communicate with anyone about it, which is what makes it really difficult for authorities to ferret out. When people conspire, they communicate, and that can be learned, that can be picked up through eavesdropping, through informants, or other methods. But if it's a lone wolf who just decides to do this one day on his own, that's a really, really difficult thing to stop. It's kind of the worst nightmare of counterterrorism authorities, guys.
And Ken, we've talked about this, but if people are just joining us, they may not know. We've talked about the pickup truck itself. There's an image that we've got, if we can put it on the screen, of that white pickup truck that the authorities say the suspect was driving. And on the back, in the lower left corner, you see a white pole on the back of the pickup truck and what looks like a flag or a piece of fabric of some kind. Ken, I know you've talked about it with your sources. Do you have any guidance on what that might be?
What they're telling us is they are actively investigating whether that is an ISIS flag. And that's what we've heard for the last few hours. They may know more. They likely do know more at this point about exactly what message, if any, was on that flag. But that was the working hypothesis. That was the investigative intent, was to learn whether that was an ISIS flag. And I haven't heard any other possible explanation for that. It's kind of a thing you don't see very often on a pickup truck. And it certainly would track with what we've seen in other events. But If true, that's just another troubling indicator here, pointing in a direction, guys. But we're not ready to say, obviously, no one is telling us specifically this was an ISIS-inspired attack, but we're getting signs that are pointing in that direction.
Do we have any more updated information on those potential homemade bombs? We know that we were listening to our local affiliate, WDSU, there on the ground, and they were saying that, they were, as a precaution now, canvassing, for example, the Superdome, canvassing downtown, bringing in extra dogs. Do we know if they had located more devices or exactly where that stands?
We don't know the answer to that question. That's a great question, Morgan. As you said, we saw the local affiliate reporting on what appeared to be controlled detonations of suspicious packages found in the French Quarter. And the reporter said that the explosions sounded like firecrackers. That suggests to me those were not bombs, because if they were bombs, there would have been a much larger explosion and a much louder sound. But it suggests that the police are being extremely cautious and treating every stray backpack with suspicion, because they're not sure exactly what they have here. We heard the assistant FBI agent in charge of the New Orleans division say this morning that there were potential IEDs, potential bombs at the scene, but authorities have not said any more about whether they were real, how many, where they were found. Those are all questions we're trying to answer.
Ken, sorry, we were listening to our producers for a moment, and I didn't hear you stop talking. I want to ask you about the gentleman who was on with Hallie Jackson, which we played a few moments ago, eyewitness to everything, said that he didn't see barriers. And he described those orange and white barricades that we've seen in some of the pictures and the video as the only thing that was up to stop traffic. It's not in that particular shot, but there were orange and white, I don't know what to call them, sort of
barriers that were broken.
Barriers that were broken. You see them in that picture there. Do we have any clarity, Ken? Because the New York Times is reporting that the city may have been upgrading they're called bollards or stanchions, the metal posts that emerge from the ground. You've seen them maybe if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., they have them around the Capitol building. They're designed to stop vehicles. Do we know if that's the case, that they were working on upgrading those, and that's why they didn't have those up at the time?
I have not seen that NBC News has that reporting, guys, but I heard that interview and it really struck me. That guy is a New Orleans resident, and he said, we have those hydraulic barriers that come up from the street. I've heard other experts on our air today say, well, that's the solution in these cases. It prevents cars or vehicles from picking up speed to prevent this very kind of attack. If in fact those were under maintenance, they existed but they weren't deployed, that's going to be a significant concern and a source of introspection and discussion going forward, because it really is unimaginable that the authorities allowed a mass gathering knowing that this basic precaution that they had available to them was not deployed, if that's in fact what happened. And that's what this man told Hallie Jackson. You heard him there. He said, I've seen those barriers come up. They come up from the ground. They're hydraulic balustrades, and they were not deployed at 8 p.m. when he was there on the ground, and they were not deployed at 3 a.m. when he was looking out the window. So, yeah, that's something we need to do some more work on and learn whether that is in fact the case. But whether they were under maintenance or just not deployed, that's a significant question about how this was allowed to happen, guys.
Yeah. Well, Ken, I can tell you that the New York Times links, it's not our reporting, but they do link to a city website, City of New Orleans website that shows a notice that they are replacing and repairing that system until February, it says on their website. So we'll get more reporting on that. Ken Delaney, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.